It's time, therefore, friends, it's time for us to start our conversation on the topic of today. The topic of today is a very interesting one. But before we talk about the topic, I know there are some friends that are joining this conversation for the very first time, and you've been invited by a friend or someone else told you about it. Oh, you're passing by, browsing the YouTube and landed on this wonderful show. This is the Speaker's Pulse, a place we are slowly becoming the one-stop place for you to learn soft skills. And that is our goal. Therefore, we are so happy to have you be part of this conversation on several themes of the themes that come along with soft skills generally. A couple of weeks ago, we started a journey. I call it a bold journey for us to demystify soft skills for you. We've talked already about two. And this night, we are going to tackle another giant in the room. Now, you've all heard sayings that teamwork makes the dream work. They say that the team means together, everyone wins or something, or everyone makes a difference. There's so many taglines around teamwork, but barely do we sometimes take time to understand what teamwork truly is, the impact of teamwork, and how do we actually improve our teamwork. Tonight, the theme is teamwork that works. And it's very important that we take some time to understand truly how we get ourselves to be productive as teams. And for me, as usual, I am your host. My name is Joshua Tahinduka, and let the show begin. As usual, I am never here alone. I come with good friends of mine, people that I'm extremely proud to call my friends, people that I've shared a journey with, and I'm quite confident that they know a bit or two about the theme and topic today. I'm going to begin with my very good friend, Syria, whom I actually met, thankfully, right before the pandemic. We got to meet and exchange a few ideas where I realized that she is equally passionate about teams. So Miss Syria Rama is a learning and development consultant. She's passionate about people. I think the best thing that describes Syria is she is a people lover. Everything around people development, Syria is going to be there. And she's equally going to show up with a big smile and huge excitement. She's a member of Toastmasters. And just like myself, she is equally a Toastmasters junkie. But most importantly, she's worked and she's still working to help and support different organizations, different teams, find that spark that makes them a different team altogether. And therefore, Syria, it's such a joy to have you at the Speaker's House. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. Another friend of mine, none other than Matthew George. And now Matthew George will be joining shortly if he has not already showed up on the screen. Matthew George has been a good friend of mine, again, through a Toastmasters journey, since, I think, Matthew, since about 4 years ago, when we just met on a regional Toastmasters conference as well. And first meeting, you became a champion. What a way to introduce yourself to me. And in fact, you are taking over from me in both ways. You became a champion, and you also hosted the regional conference, which I happened to have hosted the previous year. And we got a chance to work together, again, in a form of a team. So Matthew is a public speaker, and he's also a public speaking coach. But I know that he does consult for teams as well, especially corporate organizations, to help them build their teams. And he's indeed a consultant in the area of team building. And that team building is a huge space that, of course, Matthew and Syria are extremely experienced about. And what a joy to have you both. Or should I also remind people that Matthew George is a member of Toastmasters? Oh, he is, let me say, a Toastmasters junkie, just like the two of us. So this is indeed a wonderful group of people that are passionate about people. And earlier on, I was saying that if you like to become a better human being, a better professional, and find a team that you like to grow with, we know a bit or two about where to find that. If time allows, we will tell you a bit more about Toastmasters. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to talk about how do we get ourselves in positions of teams that actually work. And that's why we have a theme that says teamwork that works. Again, if you're joining for the first time, it's wonderful to have you. Do not be afraid to hit the subscribe button, because that will keep you in touch with all of us, so that when we have any developing news or any new show, you're able to know and start the conversation with us in time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's only right to start here. I'm going to start with you, Syria, with an interesting question. Now, teamwork is indeed an essential part of today's business. But I just want to ask you, as a person that has worked with different teams, supported different teams, when you walk in the room, the team is there, how do you tell a good team from a bad team? Or perhaps, what are some of those indicators that you look at and say, this is actually a very good team to reckon with? Syria.
Thank you for that question and for having me, Joshua. For me, the first indicator is joy. The team is in good spirits. The team is full of energy. When I observe people who are engaging easily, and they've formed a culture that is more of a family, everybody knows what they're doing, they surpass their targets, they are very charged. So at first observation, if I see a team that is charged and moving, people are high energy, high spirits, they are engaged, the conversations that they're having, there's laughter in the room. That's the first indication in my observation.
So joy is a big indicator. That energy, that hype that you get in the team, and you look at, there's a bit of chemistry. Matthew, in your consulting work, probably one of your deliverables is a team that is good. How do you reach at the end of your day and say, we have a good team? What are some of those indicators you're always looking for as a consultant?
Hi, Joshua, and thank you for having me. I think one of the most important things, and I think the starting point for a good team, is awareness of their purpose, awareness of the common purpose of the team. If a team is not aware of where they're headed, if they're not aware of their major goals, then that is going to be an ineffective team. And particularly if every member of the team is working towards a different goal, and one that is not aligned with the overall purpose of the team, then I think that's a team that's headed for failure. So I think at the end of the day, that's primarily where we start. We start with awareness of where we are headed. I think the rest of the things fall into place. And I'm sure some of those other aspects, the other good traits of an effective team, will come out further in this discussion.
Understanding a common direction. Now, when you all understand where you're headed for and what you need to be done, I think gets in place. But understanding a common direction and probably working together. I think there's so much more we can talk about a healthy team, an exciting team. But I think those are two very big points. Understanding what you're up to, what your focus is, and of course, having that chemistry, that bonding ability to know, to have the fire together. And in many ways, feeling that you are actually part of the barracks, if you may, because I tend to see I think the army or the military has a very good sense of team portrayal, because there is a lot of team spirit that is always maybe fostered around that, and you get to see the morale when people actually understand what they're up to. But of course, there are other factors that you're going to talk about that actually can help a team become an excellent team. So this leads me to the next question, which is, what are some of the things that make a difference in teams? When you look at a strong team, an excellent team, and a shambolic team, let me dare say, and a very weak team, a very disorganized team? What are some of those factors that make a huge difference in our teams? I'm going to again start with you, Syria, if you don't mind.
Great, thank you for that question. I like the word that you've used, shambolic. In terms of identifying, so you've spent some time or you've done some research into a particular team to observe or do a needs assessment. The things that come out in terms of teams that are not working is there's no collaboration. The team probably got stuck at the, how do I call it? The storming stage of the evolution of the team, because a team is always evolving. There's always someone new coming into the team, someone leaving the team for various reasons. And so when there's no collaboration, then the team definitely will not perform. Maybe they don't have their objectives being set out clearly for them. Maybe it's even the line manager. So it varies. A team that would perform excellently for me, number one, has accepted each other. So the members of the team know each other well. They have accepted each other and what each of them bring to the table. So as a strengths coach, my focus is normally around people getting to be very self-aware. If the team is self-aware, the team members are self-aware, and I know this is my superpower that I'm bringing to the table, and the other person or the other team members accept that this is what you bring, this is what person X and Y bring, and we use those superpowers together for the betterment of the organization, for more productivity. Outperformance is bound to happen because everybody's bringing their A game. And so therefore you find that the outcome of such a team will be excellent. The outcome will be above par. Productivity, engagement will be above par. And you know, I think as we go along, we can go deeper into some of those areas. Back to you, Joshua.
Absolutely, absolutely. The ability to capitalize on your several strengths and everyone showing up with their ability, their uniqueness, bringing their uniqueness on the table. Again, it eases a lot of pressure, I imagine, from different corners. Because look, we are all having different abilities, and when we bring them together, that's when we actually form a team. And actually, one of the friends just reminded me the acronym team, which I was struggling to get. And this is cool. And I, of course, you have to be a cool kid. Say together, teamwork means together everyone achieves more. I think that what you've told us is a perfect fitting maybe answer to this. Matthew, George, again, I'm going to get back to you in terms, and maybe the same question. What do you think makes a difference in teams?
I like to go back to fundamentals. I feel that if we don't get fundamentals right, then all these other techniques that we might teach a team in terms of how to collaborate, how to communicate, how to resolve conflicts, I think they will all fall to pieces. So I think I like to go back to the fundamentals. Are we aware of the vision and mission? You know, I think this has been an overused term, vision and mission of a company or of a team. And I think we have got into a place where, are we really aware of what it means? In fact, if you ask a person if they're aware of the vision and mission of the company that they work for, they might not entirely be able to reiterate it to you word for word. And so I think that awareness of why we are here, what it is that we are supposed to be doing, and where we are headed to. So the vision is simply the final destination. It's the vision. You know, where are we trying to get to? It's the Canaan. It's the promised land, right? And that's the end goal. And once you have that end goal in mind, then you have the mission, which is, how do we get there? Now that's where you break it down into the main goals that will take you to Canaan, right? And once you have clear awareness among the whole team, then I think all these other techniques start to fall into place. So for example, these are the steps that I like to follow. So first, what is the common purpose of the team? Once the team is well established that this is our common purpose, then once they share the same goals, now it goes into collaboration. Because have you ever accomplished something with other people and then you feel so good and you realize that there's no way you could have done it alone? I think we can all relate to that feeling. And whenever I feel that, I like to say to the people around me, teamwork makes the dream work. And I think this should be our mantra. It should be our motto, because it's just something nice for us to remember that teamwork makes your dream work and the dream that we all share work. And so collaboration now kicks in once you share the same goals. Then I think the next step is good communication. If you have effective communication, then I think, first of all, has that vision been communicated clearly by perhaps the leader of that team? I think when we have a team, sometimes we self-organize, and if we have a leader, or we already have an established one, so has that vision been communicated clearly, and got the feedback been gotten from the team in terms of how to get there? I think smooth communication, whenever there's an issue, to be able to see, are we moving along smoothly towards that goal? What issues are arising, the challenges? So communication is very important. Conflict arises when we are moving towards a goal. It's inevitable. I think you can't avoid conflict, especially when it's different people working together. Even though it's the same goal, it's different people, different personalities. And I think conflict is unavoidable. But accepting that conflict and finding out how do we resolve that conflict and normalize conflict resolution, and accept that there's nothing wrong with having a conflict within a team, but how do we go about it? How do we resolve it? These are some of the effective tools of a good team. And a shambolic team would be one that doesn't collaborate. There's poor communication. They refuse to communicate, and I think that affects trust. Once there's conflict that's deep seated in a team, then there's no trust. If we're all working together, then how can I trust that you are going to pull us through to Canaan? How do I trust that I can get there with you? And I think team building, we focus on the trust aspect. How can we create a bond within this team so that this team will see that vision to the end? So I think these are some of the aspects that would really strengthen a team, and if gotten wrong, could lead to a team collapsing.
Well, thank you so much, George. Again, very, very insightful ideas on what makes an excellent team. And you've echoed something that you've talked about, something that someone on the chat, Junior Adadi, say that effective communication is absolutely crucial for us to have an excellent team. And Elizabeth again comes back to say respect for one another, trying to demystify the hierarchy divides. And this is really important. I'm just going to come back to you, Syria. Why is it important? What role does trust play in ensuring that the team is intact? Because we talk a lot about trust, and we normally leave this to our social circles, or maybe things like relationships, non-platonic relationships, friendships. But when it comes to the workplace, how important is trust in order to make a team work? Because this is something that Matthew did mention that is absolutely crucial.
Thank you, Joshua, for that. I think trust is crucial. Crucial because these are people you spend majority of your days with. Consider that you're home, or maybe not home Saturday and Sunday. So you're with people throughout the day, 8 hours a day, every day. Well, in this day and age, maybe not all the time, but you're trying to achieve the same goal. Everybody has their part to play. So it's like a machine. It's like gears. If a gear is broken, if a chunk of the gear is broken, then the wheel will not turn, the gears will not turn. And so the team will not be able to achieve what it is they're trying to achieve if they don't have trust. Remember, in the stages of group formation or team formation, you have the forming, norming, storming, norming, and performing. So in the forming stage, this is where you're acting without knowing who you're working with. you're getting to know each other. And so this is the stage at which you begin to see each other's true colors, to engage with each other. And then you get into storming, where now you bring your contribution. When you bring your contribution to the table, somebody else has a different view of the world, has a different view of the challenge you're trying to find a solution for, or the goals you're trying to achieve. Everybody has their way of seeing and doing things. And so here you go through storming. By the time you get to norming, because teams do get stuck in storming, and you find that there's clashes all the time. People are not accepting of each other. They're not accepting of the work that they need to do together, or who plays what part in that chain of doing what it is you need to do. And so everybody's trying to demonstrate, this is what I can do, but sometimes you forget to stop and listen to the other person. So we need to be very careful, even as leaders of teams, to be able to know how to manage this storming stage, how to get people to trust each other. And a big part of that is by having self-leadership as an individual. Because then if I do what I'm supposed to do, I have to trust that the other person will do what they're supposed to do for us to deliver a particular outcome. And so once we get through the storming stage and we have built trust, only then can we get into norming, to be able to have this wheel turning, to have this engine working. Once we've done that and the trust keeps growing, then we can begin to perform. And so trust is a key ingredient, because then I know and I trust that you will get your job done and get it done in the right way to support me to get my job done, and therefore outperform. And this is where we say targets are met by productive teams that are engaged, that are able to collaborate together. And I find that trust indeed is huge. It's critical. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you so much, Syria. Indeed, the value of trust cannot be overstated, because at the end of the day, I think you did explain to us clear levels of team formation and building, and how to form a productive team, or the metamorphosis of actually an excellent team. And it just came to mind, and that you find some when there's lack of trust, and so everyone shows up in autopilot and doesn't give space for vulnerability. And I'm just going to come back to George. In a team, it's absolutely crucial to have good communication skills, to have a good trust. And someone on the chat earlier on, I'll read, they say that it's important to have levels of respect and tolerance. But is it of any value for a team to reach a level of vulnerability, to have a space where they actually can be vulnerable in the workplace?
Absolutely. I think for collaboration to take place, and for people to truly trust, for a team to trust each member of the team and to trust the team as a whole, I think that vulnerability should be permitted. It should be encouraged and tolerated. I think if you think about it, when it comes to vulnerability, I think if someone does not express this, it boils down to communication. If they don't express discontentment, there might be something that is troubling them about, perhaps it could be a task that they are supposed to do. It could be an incident that might have occurred. And if they're not permitted to be vulnerable and to express and to allow themselves to be imperfect as they try and raise it, then what's going to happen is we might just have them holding it inside and brooding over it, and then it doesn't get expressed. And what happens is it continues building up and building up over time until the individual just completely withdraws from the team, and that from there collaboration stops. And eventually what will happen is they might pull out of the team, they might drop out. And if a team didn't have a contingency plan, then I think what could happen is this could ultimately lead to a lot of strain on other members of the team. And eventually you have people serving multiple roles, and they burn out. They start to become very unhappy, demotivated, and eventually this can lead to collapse of the team. So I think allowing and tolerating and even encouraging vulnerability and honesty is key to having trust within a team and promoting true collaboration.
Well, absolutely well put. But I feel that there's a way in our corporate environment, everyone is encouraged to be confident, to have all their ideas together, to have every act together, make no mistake, calm, sharp, and thrive, and all that. And that element of lack of vulnerability, of saying, look, I actually don't know. I actually am clueless right now. I don't know what to do. Someone help me. That when you show up in an environment that lacks trust, I think you are just feeding yourself of vouchers, and you will not like the outcome. Syria, as well as Matthew was talking about it, I saw you nodding in acceptance, like you had something to add on to that before we can actually transition to something else. I'm going to give you a chance to give your take on that.
Oh, I love the topic of vulnerability because I think we are changing and the workplace is changing, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle for people to become vulnerable. And I like what you have said about, is it possible for someone to say, I don't know? Trust you me, it is. It is possible for you to be in a space that you're so self-aware as part of, as you being you and being part of the team, to be able to say, look, this is what I'm good at. This is the thing that I'm not good at or I don't know. And I'm okay with that. Being vulnerable enough to say that's not my superpower. This is not my strength area. And that is what we call in the work that I do around strength. It's called confident vulnerability. That I will give 110, 120% of the things I'm really good at. And then there are those weaknesses that, in the workplace, you're always told improve on your weaknesses. Why don't we ever say, keep working on your strengths? Because your productivity will go out the roof if you're allowed to do what it is you thrive in. And so if you have team members who are able to give 150% of what they are good at, they're all not going to be giving the same thing. And so that trust in a team for people to know this is so and so's sweet spot, this is so and so's sweet spot. When we bring all of that together into collaboration, or what I like to call as interdependence, it allows for people to give their best and to make that engine work at 200%, if I can use that observation or that measure of 200%. And so I think vulnerability will take us to the next level, because you're human. You can't be expected to show up at 100% in things that you're not good at, but you can be expected to show up at 100, 150% of the things that you're really good at. So getting into a space of allowing people to be who they are, to be vulnerable about what they can and cannot do, is all about trust, but will get us to the next step in having people happy at work, in having people productive and engaged, and they will outperform. Back to you, Joshua.
That's a very good point that you raise, Syria, that you're not expected to know everything, but you're expected to come with your A game on everything that you know how to do well, but also expected in a healthy environment to learn, to be open to learn the things that you don't know, right? Matthew, what's your take on that?
I agree with Syria in terms of how central vulnerability is to the functioning of a good team and to this discussion. I think just first of all, we are working with a different generation now. In fact, the new workforce is going to be primarily Generation Y, and now the generations that are coming after that. And I think they've had different experience, and they prefer to be shown how. They want to be shown how, but at times they may not be as willing to come forward and say that they don't know how to do it. I think it's important that we encourage all members of a team to come forward and just admit that they are having a difficulty or a challenge, and show them through it, show them the ropes, explain how to go about it. I think it's crucial, because I'm thinking about so many recent examples, real life examples of members of a team that, nowadays tasks and roles are so complex. If you think about it, they're nearly, you can't count the number of tasks and responsibilities that members of teams have. And so, of course, there are certain things that are going to slip through the cracks. And what I have seen is, if you don't allow them that space to be able to express and ask for instructions or feedback or something of that sort, what will happen is they'll just do what they think they're supposed to do, and they try and they fail. And if we don't even allow that space for them to fail, of course, it's typical. If you don't allow them to ask, then that means when they fail, we're also not very tolerant towards failure. And so what will happen is the feedback that will be given is quite harsh, quite negative, and we find that such a person will tend to withdraw. They'll feel like, this is not my thing, this is not my space. I don't know why I'm even here, and they want to leave. So I think the issue of vulnerability, I think it's very clear that we need to give people that leeway, that space to be able to ask and to be able to fail, and just keep encouraging them as we go along.
Absolutely. I think we need to show up in our workplaces as human beings and exercise our humanity, in a sense that, look, you don't know this, therefore you deserve to be supported. But before that we can reach that place, we have to have a strong foundation of trust. I have to know that if I lay out my life, people are not going to slaughter me. Instead, they will hold me and support me and encourage me, as opposed to trash me around and call me weak, call me the crybaby of the team, and all sorts of the names that you may have. But thank you so much, friends. I think this is getting interesting, and that's why it's important for me to put a pause here and visit our friends on the other end of the world and see what they're up to. Now, thank you so much. Earlier on, I did mention that a few asked the number of members here, asked in the chat what they think is essential for effective teams. Junior said effective communication. Elizabeth said respect for one another, trying to demystify the hierarchy device. I think we did mention that. Space Apps Challenge Kigali say that tolerance can be key to avoiding conflicts when we are aware of teammates' weakness and imperfections, and try to build on them. I think this is something that we both agree, or that the fact both of you did mention, absolutely crucial to understand the teams and what they actually can bring on the table. Ganza, a good friend of the Speaker's Pulse, also says great insights. Happy to be here as well. Jean Dodier, it's so great to have you. You say good evening. I am thrilled to be here. Then I asked another question. Do you think it's healthy to be vulnerable in a workplace? Elizabeth comes again to say, I think it's healthy to be vulnerable because that is when you are aware and you seek help, and then, and that is when you learn. However, too much of it is not too good, and I'm going to come back to you guys about that. Alma says that I believe that to make a team work better, we should accept that we don't know everything, which we agree. Everybody has something unique to bring to the team. It is okay, therefore, to be vulnerable, as long as you accept that you can learn. Thank you so much, Goodwill, for the wonderful insights. If you're new here, please do subscribe. We'd like to have you always on time, and then make sure to you get all the early and recent updates from the Speaker's Pulse. So please be part of the 500 people that have decided to start their learning journey with us at the Speaker's Pulse. So friends, earlier on, we've been cautioned that it's important to be vulnerable, but don't have too much of it. Syria, what's your take on that?
Wow. I guess My take on that is that people get burnt when they are vulnerable. It's a new concept. The understanding of vulnerability that people have is that you are exposing yourself, is that you are exposing yourself to ridicule, to gossip, to all sorts of things. So even in a session, when I ask people what they think vulnerability is, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, I'm exposed. And so you tend to limit what it is you share in the office or who you share it with because of lack of trust. So that saying or that statement that says, not too much is because I don't trust people that I work with, or I don't trust my boss. Hundreds and hundreds of people don't trust their boss. And so the person that you're supposed to be vulnerable with, who will help you through your progression in the team and through the evolution of the team, if you don't trust that person, you're not going to be completely open with them. I think I've seen that across organizations, across even different teams, that I don't want to expose everything about myself. But if we're looking at the workplace, then in terms of the work that you're supposed to do, then you should be able to be open and say, look, I don't know how to do this, or I need help, or I need to learn A, B, C, D. And maybe the extent of the vulnerability that she was talking about, we don't know, but it varies. But I think it's always about lack of trust.
That's a very good point you raise here. I think our vulnerability, if we could put a measure to it, it is always is subject to the amount of trust that we have. So if you know that I can be completely open and I will I will know that you hold everything with care and you're not going to be spreading it all around, I think there's a chance for me to come back again and be open to you. Especially, I like you talk to managers. You did say especially people they don't trust their managers. There's this saying that people join organizations and leave managers or bosses, and I think that's a big disappointment to organizations. And we can talk more about the issue of trust, and I think that's an entire topic on its own, and we can spend nights on that. But I just want us to pivot a bit. I think we've talked about what makes a good team, what things that you look into when you say new team, and some of the things that make teams work. And I don't assume in any way that we've exhausted some of the things that make teams excellent, and maybe we'll get more time to get back to that. But just want to pose this here and ask on the vitality of having a good team. Now, we all know that good teams make the dream work, right? But little is said about the individual value, the value to the individual. So and as a result, that puts the burden to the manager, to the organization, to the institution. When things are not doing well, then teams are like, oh, it's because the organization is not doing this. Oh, because my manager is not doing this. Oh, the market is not favorable. But maybe if you understand the value that it brings to an individual, maybe there are things I can do within my reach to improve my team and therefore reap those benefits. So, Matthew, what are some of those benefits to an individual that are not necessarily seen from maybe a huge team perspective, but to you as an individual, when you show up every morning, what are some of the benefits for you to give your all and create a healthy team?
Thanks for that wonderful question, Joshua. I think it's very, again, we have to bring up the generation that we are a part of and the future workforce, the generations that they are coming from. I think let's start with money and remuneration. Definitely money and remuneration are important. It's unavoidable. You need to be able to pay bills. You need to be able to buy that thing, maybe buy that house or buy whatever it is that you really wanted. Money is aspirational. There's so many aspirations that it can help fulfill. However, at the end of the day, then that will beg the question, why work for this organization? Why work for this other one? Because if money making is the sole aim, then there are many different ways in which that money can be made, right? So why this particular organization? I think organizations nowadays are looking at purpose and fulfilling the purpose of the individual. It's very important in terms of how you craft your vision and your mission statement. For the individual that's coming to work for you to realize what is the end game of this organization, where are we headed to, and making that individual truly believe in that vision. And if they don't believe, then even at the point of recruiting that member to this team, then perhaps that will be a starting point, that if they don't truly fit, if they don't feel like they fit, and if they don't have any good reason to want to be a part of this team and fulfill that vision, then they perhaps don't even belong in that team in the first place. Because at the end of the day, that belief has to be there. And it's part of, if you can make your individual purpose align with the organizational purpose, then I think you are there for the long haul. And I think you're going to be an effective team member. But if we have someone who's only there for the remuneration, but they don't really align with the organization's goals, then I think they are still not going to be effective. They will continue to be demotivated because they won't want to really take initiative when it comes to fulfilling certain tasks. They won't feel like getting up in the morning and being on time to work and accomplishing all that needs to be accomplished, because the team's work is not easy. I think it's very clear that, work is never easy, whichever type of work it is. But the only thing that will make you get past those obstacles, those challenges, and continue and push through is belief that you are doing something meaningful, you're doing something worthwhile with your time, and this organization is headed somewhere meaningful. I think that's what will really give you that extra surge of motivation.
Mm-hmm. So I think, so Matthew has, from the start, if you guys have not heard, from the start, get your mission, get your vision clear. Make it as attractive as possible, and people will actually come to your journey. And I think to your organization. And I think, of course, the assumption is that people know what they're looking for. And you did talk a bit about that. But Syria, I just want to come to you, in addition to what Matthew has said, of making sure that organizations create a good vision to be part of. And I think this also speaks into like people's intrinsic motivation, which is maybe to work for an organization that is probably giving them a chance to live beyond themselves. What are some of other benefits that you can say, if my team does well, then I take home this as an individual, or I am this way as an individual, or I gain this from an excellent team?
I think I would look at it in terms of my contribution to the team. Because if I can self-lead myself to be able to deliver what I'm supposed to deliver, I will reap the benefits. So you find organizations that, of course, give bonuses, they give different experiences to their employees. It becomes a motivator to know that I will grow in this organization. So growth is a key motivator, and growth isn't always upward. You find that if you have an organization that is able to give different experiences to people, then that person remains engaged, that person remains motivated. Or an organization that helps people achieve their own personal purpose and the thing that they really want to get out of being a part of that organization. As Matthew said, you have to have purpose alignment, your own personal purpose. And I know so many people, or it's the norm for people to want to figure out what is my purpose. And the different types of purpose, there is work and relational purpose. So if I know that what I bring to this role, for instance, when I leave this role, will people be saying good riddance? Or they'll be saying no one can do this job as well as person X did it. So what is your purpose? What is your legacy? What are you going to be leaving behind when you leave that organization? Is something to think about in terms of what experience am I getting. So some organizations are able to give cross-regional transfers or opportunities for people to work in different departments, different countries, or even be seconded to other organizations. And so you find that that can be a motivator, that maybe our remuneration package is not so much about me moving up, or rather moving into a different organization, but growing and expanding in terms of what I earn, in terms of the perks I receive, and in terms of what contribution I give to the organization. For example, you find that if I am a person of fantastic ideas, so I have ideation as one of the key strengths, then me being allowed to bring those ideas to the table, and some of those ideas being adapted by the organization, will really motivate me. And I will feel like I own something in this organization, like I've left a legacy. You know, I am the one who did X. It was my idea that brought X. And so that feeling of being part of being aligned to the purpose of the organization is a great motivator. Back to you, Joshua.
Well, I think you put it so well in terms of the other benefits that come to an individual in terms of growth. I think most professionals, in addition to the money that comes in at the end of the month, which eventually, by the way, you never get enough of it. You can get a raise on a weekly basis and you still want more. And therefore, not such a good measure of whether you are developing, right? But most of us show up looking for an opportunity to grow, a sense of belonging, but also a great opportunity to be able to grow and do better. And you did mention growth, of course, in terms of your remuneration, but also largely because in terms of your independence, in terms of your contribution, in terms of the big picture, the long term of look, I've actually done this. I've been able to do that. You walk home saying, because of my contribution, the organization is able to do that. But also something I had you say, I think both of you in different words, is that you get to show up at your maximum potential. And that's very crucial for your own personal development, because if you don't give your best, and you tend to give your best in a very healthy team where everyone is doing, they're happy to do everything to bring in their best, and everyone is challenged and everyone is able to contribute. And that's how growth actually improves. That's how you grow faster than in an environment where all of you are saying, who's going to ask the question first? Who's going to be the one to put their life on the line? And who's going to be the first to get a backing, and that stifles growth. So when you know that you're in an environment that encourages you to give your best, to do your best, it actually gives you a chance to grow. But number two, it also, in a sense, is job security, in a sense that who doesn't want a productive team? That put all factors constant, everyone wants a productive team. And if you're part of a winning team, everyone is going to be looking for you. It's good for your personal brand. And therefore, being part of a very productive team is absolutely good self-branding. And when you are able to show and say, look, I've been able to be part of this great team, I've been able to do this and achieve that, I think everyone wants a great team player. And that is actually crucial for your own personal development and growth. And there's definitely so much more. But because of time, I'm also going to pause again and read a few of our comments on the other side. So David Muita says, thank you so much for being here, by the way, David. Say that there should be a healthy balance between an employer and employees' responsibility to each other to avoid abuse of power by the employer and victimhood by the employee. Absolutely spot on. It's important for all of us to come and understand. I think sometimes we get it skewed. We are all a team, and therefore, because you are maybe the CEO, the owner of the organization, it doesn't make you any better than a person, than the gatekeeper or someone, the sales team. We just part of the same team, and we don't have to exercise powers over the other, because as you mentioned very well, it breeds other habits like victimhood or abuse of power, and that is not good for any team. Our panelists tonight will be the first people to tell you that the moment you have that, then you have a very, very toxic team. So it's absolutely important what you said, David. So thank you so much, David. Alma, you come back again. Thank you so much for your participation. You're saying that aligning with purpose of the organization is absolutely key. It creates value to what you do in a particular team. Motivation is also key to the person engaged. Absolutely true. I think without motivation, you're not able to show up the next day. That's why you come dragging feet. You feel sick every morning. Every Monday is terrible. And you thank God it's a Friday. So when that motivation is lacking, then you struggle to do even the bare minimum in organization. So thank you so much, Alma, for reminding us and echoing what we're talking about earlier on, of the importance of having a clear personal purpose and aligning it with the organizational purpose that is there to actually serve. So thank you so much, our wonderful friends. And on the other end, again, just a quick reminder, two things actually. One, we are busy celebrating. We've got our first 500 subscribers, and you are actually part of those. Thank you so much for being part. And if you're new at the Speaker's Pulse, be part of the 500 people that have said, look, let me learn with the Speaker's Pulse, because there is clearly a secret with the Speaker's Pulse. We have started a series on soft skills, vital skills, and I think you will not regret it being part of this conversation. And of course, learning from highly experienced, very high profile panelists that I bring to you to be able to learn. And two, again, if you have any questions for us, just drop it into the chat. We will be able to answer that in just a bit. Again, they say that time waits for no man. And therefore, that means that we are coming to the end of a wonderful and sweet and nice conversation. And I'd like to ask maybe the last question of the evening. What should we do? We now know what a good team looks like. We now know the benefits of having a good team and being part of a good team. How do you make a good team? What do I do as Joshua, as a professional, to become a better team player and do better and make sure, and also ultimately improve my team? I'm going to begin with Martin.
I think as a team, it's important to take initiative, because a lot of the time you might find that something's not going right, and if you keep quiet about it, then at the end of the day, you're not doing your team justice, you're not doing yourself justice. And of course, you can always complain that this is not a good team, it's not an effective team, and of course that leads to dragging your feet, and you don't pull your weight for the team. But there's a difference between an entirely ineffective and toxic team and one that's about to collapse. That's a whole different story. But even if you are part of such a team, or you're not entirely aware whether your team is such a team, at least have you tried to take initiative and maybe voice your concern, or if not voice your concern, have you tried to do your part in your own small way to try and rectify that situation, to try and improve things for your team, and maybe at least ensure that you're pulling your weight and you're trying to encourage the rest to do so? So I think initiative goes a long way. Even in a good team, you'll find that every member of the team is pulling their weight. They're taking initiative. They know where they're supposed to be at any given point, and they're doing the most. They're doing their best. I think looking out for your team member and making sure that you're a step ahead. And if they've missed out on something, instead of pointing fingers and criticizing them, perhaps have you tried to fill the gap for them, or at least plug the gap for them, and then go to them in a positive way and show them that, first of all, the gap has been plugged, but going forward, what can we do to make sure that you can be able to take care of such situations a little bit better? It's all about the attitude with which you bring to an interaction with your team member when something is not done the right way. Whereas in an ineffective team, I think the communication comes in a very critical, blaming manner. And you find that that feedback is not always received the best way. In Toastmasters, we place so much emphasis on how we give feedback, because some types of feedback are very likely to be dismissed and not received very well, but others are likely to be very well taken on board and can contribute to improvement. So I think these are some of the ways in which we can bring about a good team.
Well, very important. And I like what you say, that taking initiative is actually a cross-cutting aspect, but more crucial, more important when you are part of a team and you don't know where you stand. Coming in, giving your all, I think that energy is also contagious. Taking initiative to be able to play your part, pull your own weight, and you don't know who else is watching or who else you might impact. Now, Syria, apart from taking initiative, there could be some other things that I could do to either improve my team or be a better team player. Any ideas?
Yes, actually, I love what Matthew has talked about in terms of attitude, in terms of asking yourself, what have you done to be part of the solution? I think be present, number one. You've got to be present. Some people check into the office, but they're not in the office. It's just the body. And you're busy doing all these other things, and you're not contributing to the solution or to the productivity or to the outcomes. So being present is key. I think he's mentioned having the right attitude. We need to ask ourselves, are you trustworthy? You're busy complaining and being part of the toxicity, being part of the blame game, the gossip milling in the office. What are you doing as yourself to become more trustworthy, to be that trusted colleague? Yeah. And you need to make a choice. As we say, life is a choice. So you need to make a choice about what your contribution will be. You need to be able to say, this is what I bring to the table, and choose to do it and do it right. Because then if you are part of this team and you are not trustworthy, you are part of the toxicity, part of whatever politics is in that organization, then nothing is going to change. So until each individual is able to manage themselves, see what they're doing right, see what they're doing wrong, accept and receive feedback, and do something about it, then nothing is ever going to change. We always blame the boss. Yes, sometimes the boss can be the problem, but majority of the time you find that there are people who are disengaged, who are pulling the team down. And so when we look at ourselves, when you self-lead, you're self-aware, you manage yourself, and you're able to ask yourself questions about, what is my part in this story? Am I part of the solution, or am I part of the problem? Another thing is to have a growth mindset. So there are many things that we don't know, and there are things that we need to unlearn, either a culture, a behavior. I like the things we call unwritten ground rules, the way we do things in this little team of ours that are not written anywhere, but they happen. And so having a look at that culture that we have, am I part of the poor culture, or am I part of the engaged, energetic culture that gets the engine moving? So those would be my thoughts around, how do I as an individual bring my contribution to the story.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Syria. Thank you so much, Matthew. In just a nutshell, friends, if you want to improve your team playing ability, if I may, or what you contribute, take initiative, be present, be the trusted colleague in the place of asking other people to be trusted. Be the first one to be trusted by pulling your own weight, by doing what is expected of you, and have a growth mindset. Be open to learning. Be open to ideas that you don't know. Be ready to unlearn what you learned, because I think our life is always being challenged in terms of what you know What you know to be true can actually be surprising not to be, holding water at the moment. So showing up every day, wanting to be better, wanting to do better, I think is going to make you a different team player altogether. So friends, it's been a wonderful conversation. It has been so much to learn from our wonderful panelists. Thank you so much for all of you that contributed to this conversation through chat, through the likes and comments. You are absolutely our stars of the evening. Without you, this show would not make anything in terms of sense. So thank you so much. Now, our wonderful guests, we cannot thank you enough. But before we can actually say our proper byes, I'm pretty much sure you have a parting shot for anyone that wants to be a better colleague, a better professional, a better team player. Generally, what are your parting shots? And as they usually say, ladies first, should we do that? The gentlemen? Syria, take it away.
Sorry, I didn't get that, Joshua. What did you want me to
Yeah,
give my parting shot?
parting shot, yes.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I believe that my parting shot would be around being self-aware. Take a look at yourself. Take a look at what your key strengths are, and think about whether are you contributing them to the team, or have you kept them like this muscle that you don't work? Because if you know your strengths and you keep working on them, keep giving that contribution, your potential is unlimited. Remember, we are all unique, and what you bring to the table, no one else can bring to the table. Therefore, self-awareness and knowing also what you don't know or what you're not good at, and being okay in getting help in those areas would be so crucial. It would make you less frustrated in the workplace. It would make you know that you can trust person X, person Y to help me with this area that I'm not good at. And I will in turn help them with what I am really good at. And it becomes a chain of interdependent people who are working towards a common goal. Thank you so much, Joshua, for having me.
Well, thank you so much, Celia. You've been fantastic. You've been fantastic tonight. Matthew, any parting shots for tonight? Oh, you're muted. Sorry. Sorry, you're muted. Technology.
I think for you to be part of to be a better team player, to be a better professional, I think it's crucial that you first redefine, be aware of your purpose, be aware of the team's purpose. Make sure that you're part of the right team. If you have any control over it, make sure that all your team members are all on the same page and you have the right team members. I think don't try and make everyone the same, because everyone is different and they have their own skill sets, their own strengths. And a good team leverages on the differences within that team to achieve that common purpose. There's someone who will do something way better. There's someone who's really good at PR and marketing and branding. Let them do that. There's someone who's good at accounting. Let them do that. The team has to leverage on the strengths of each of those individuals. Then trust that each of your team members will have your back and they'll pull through for you and they'll do what it takes at the end of the day to achieve the goals. Communicate well. Whether it's positive communication, reaffirm if something goes well, give them a pat on the back, encourage them. If something doesn't go right, positive criticism, positive feedback to try and encourage them to grow. And I think continuous learning, as Syria has mentioned, don't stop learning. Keep reviewing what it is that you can do to be better, to be more effective, and whatever feedback you've gotten, try and see how you can incorporate it to further improve, and celebrate the small wins. I think that sense of pride that you get from being a part of a team that is doing well, as Joshua said, it's one of the main factors that can motivate you as a team member. So celebrating those small wins, even a team that's struggling, there will always be something, and any small achievement, if you celebrate it, then I think it'll bring a sense of pride and reinvigorate that energy within the team. So I think it's crucial. And yes, I think follow these, and I think you'll be a very good team player going forward.
That is a promise, my friend. Thank you so much for all your wonderful ideas. Syria, Matthew, you've been amazing tonight. There's so much wisdom we picked from you. There's so much we learned. And in fact, there's so much more that is coming to echo what you guys said on the chat. And already Elizabeth says that great discussion. Thank you so much. We have Rispa saying that growth mindset, this cannot be overstated. Thank you so much, Rispa. Foster says, thanks for this very good discussion. And Onesimus also comes to say, being trusted is the first solution to be opted. And then we have Quinton saying, thank you so much for the helpful tips. Very applicable in today's work environment. Again, Sierra, Matthew, George, what a joy to have you tonight on this show. What a sea of knowledge, what a wealth of understanding that you guys have brought to us in this evening. There is so much I personally learned from you. There's so much I absolutely think I'm going to apply in my own personal journey to become a better team player. And our wonderful teams, the people on the other end, are wonderful viewers and people that have contributed to this conversation. Thank you so much for being part of this show. Your comments, your likes, your sharing of this wonderful material has been absolutely important. And thank you so much for making it happen. Again, this is a Speaker's Pulse. What we do here is a show that simply is focusing on being the one-stop point or your learning point for soft skills. What we want is nothing else but your personal development, your growth, and hopefully you can become a better professional by sharing this journey with us. Again, it's also an opportunity for us to learn from you and learn from each other. This has been a wonderful evening as we understand how we create a team that actually works. We've had so much wisdom, so much knowledge from our wonderful panelists, and we are not in any way going to find words enough to thank you, Matthew and Syria, for carving our time to come and share your wisdom with us. And again, our friends on the other end of the world, people that have been watching and sharing and commenting, thank you so much. We can never be anything without you guys. Now, we are going to have another show in 2 weeks' time. Until then, this is going to be a wonderful learning place. I would like to encourage you to share this, encourage your friends, your colleagues that you feel might benefit from the content. Please do share, do comment, and hopefully someone is going to be a better team player because you took action, because you did something to encourage someone to be better. We continue learning and relearning at the Speaker's Pulse. Until then, my name is Joshua Tainduka, and this is the Speaker's Pulse.